Hi, Sherko. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Lila Nazemian, and I'm the Programs Director at Arte East. This program is part of Arte East's Unpacking the ArteAchive platform, which highlights Arte East's film and video collection, presenting curators' selections from the Arte Archive in dialogue with contemporary voices. For those who aren't familiar with Arte East, we're a leading New York-based nonprofit institution supporting artists from the Swana region, that's Southwest Asia and North Africa, and its diasporas, while engaging with local New York-based US and international audiences. We offer free monthly curated film programs, as well as in-person screenings, performances, and more. To keep up to date with our programs, follow us on Instagram at Arte East or sign up to our newsletter. Today, I am so excited to be speaking with Sherko Abbas, one of the most important voices coming out from Kurdistan and Iraq. Our program is called The Video Works of Sherko Abbas, Legacies of Personal Archives Made Collective. It focuses on Sherko's work, which complicates official historical narratives of both the Iraqi and American regimes through the use of personal and public archival footage. There's a shift in his most recent works where he himself documents the land and its people. Here, he actually creates archival material, preserving traditions and oral histories of contemporary Kurdistan and Iraq. So, hi, Sherko. I'm so happy to have you here today, joining us from London. How are you doing?
Hi, Leila. I'm glad to talk to you again, and thank you for the opportunity. And I am always happy to be part of this great platform. And yeah, thank you very
Thank you. Thank you again. So, we will be showing many of your recent video works that were made from around 2017 and currently ongoing, some work that's in progress still. Can and we'll touch upon all of them, but I would love to begin by asking you to talk a little bit about your practice as a whole, both as an artist and a filmmaker.
Yes, it's a very good question. Thank you. Actually, from the beginning, I have some interest. No, I'm mainly interested to do something with the past as described by someone. I can't remember the name at the moment. Who's the name of the author? I said, past is the place which hold our information about our identity.
Mm,
So the only place that has information to describe ourselves. So that's why for me it was very important as an artist and to dig or excavate this past in general and in the context of Iraq, our geopolitical of Iraq. So, that's why I use the medium of memory at the beginning and how I work with the memory. But I really wanted to understand memory in the different level, not just as inner exercises, like something I remember or somebody else remember. I wanted to just find a way to connect archive to memory.
mm,
So hopefully I found this guy called, he's a historian and Piri Noah, which is talking about how nowadays what we have, and we can call it modern memory, and modern memory is relying on archival material, rely on what's already recorded. So it is not something that we can remember or exercise it as a human, but some things like an objective, and there is recorded, and even you can't see it, but still there, you know.
mhm,
So I interested these two things bring together, and that's why I use a lot of archive as a form of memory, how we can remember things in the past, and sometimes I use it as a transportation to the past as well. And the first I started to do some working with the object and installation. So I can't say I wasn't successful in that things. But in somehow I shifted to make more work with the film and video, because the first thing, to be honest, I found it very easy to communicate with the too many art platform. And the second things that we have a huge archive at home. My father was a cameraman and made a lot of archives. So this is in somehow inspired me. And also I thought as an artist is the clever decision to create something from what we have instead and go too far to find little things.
Hmm.
So, and that's why I decided to do more with the film and to bring them in the different contexts. And another aspect of my practice is why I am interested in archiving that much. And after that, I found out many of my father's archive and also another archive that used by mainstream, by power, who is in power. And in somehow I thought the archive is they use for many things, for propaganda, glorifying their past. And so I thought it's important to have different voices that use the archive, although they have a right to use it. And also we need to find another aspect of this archive, because in somehow by using it, especially the authority, the power, and always they have something to say through the archive, which is not friendly. So in this way, they are going to occupy our knowledge,
Hmm.
which will be very difficult to if we don't have an alternative, that mean make us or direct us in that wrong way.
Yeah.
For example, now, and also my archive, my work is not just criticizing what the international did to us, to be honest. And also I have this kind of critique about ourselves, what we are doing to ourselves as well. Because one of the points that I am very interested is about because now we are in Kurdistan when we are talking about some sensitive event in our history, for example, 1991, which is the Kurdish revolution. It's glorified a lot, and even you can't hear any voice that criticizes it till now. But for me, it's very important because nowadays, when we are talking about too many things, that's all of them is linked to the 1991, which is too many things is hidden and too many things is ignored, overlooked, or sometimes it's forbidden to talk about it.
Mhm.
So I think this is also important to go back to it and think about it and bring it out.
So, if I understand correctly, you're not only, some of the archives that you use have also been used by official, governments or different people in power. So you're reusing some of the archives that have already been used and then showing it in a different kind of perspective.
Yes, of course, because for me, very important and to use the archives that already used, because
Mhm.
when you bring in the different context, speaking differently.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for me very important.
Mhm.
And but the main things that I use this archive because many of them is it's a kind of butchering, you know.
Mm.
They the authority they butcher the archive, and every part has its value, and some of them has less value, which is throw it away to or the cat, dog to eat it, for example. So sometimes I consider myself a cat or a dog because this is the value that I want, and I want to bring it back, and this is what I live on.
Mhm.
So, and they cut all the archive. For example, this film, probably we can talk about later, Paper Puppet Testimony,
Yeah.
is about the Kurdish revolution, which is the my father filmed this revolution and archived, documented everything during the revolution day,
Yeah.
and they are showing everything. But this just 5 6 minutes, which
They
is
cut
cut
out.
off, it's not included a story, the narration.
Well,
So
well, maybe this is a good moment, I think, actually, just to link this in general first. I wanted to ask a little bit about your father's archive that you're touching on now, and how he came to have this archive, how he was, one of the earlier videos that you made, which is called Silence Along the River, and as well as Paper Puppet Testimonies, which you just referred to. These are some of the older archives or some of the works that you used from the older archives of your father. How did your father first create these archives, and how is it that he has such a large? archive that you have in your home? Is that where they are?
Uh, my father as the first started as a cameraman, and when he decided to become a Kurdish fighter, and instead of having a rifle or a Kalashnikov to say it, so he decided to have a camera, and in order to record the Kurdish struggle during the 80s. So, and he was a member of PUK party, and which is now in power, and they are running the government.
In
Uh,
Kurdistan.
in Kurdistan, yes. So, and he filmed a lot of stuff, and a part of this film is about the Kurdish guerrilla, how to fight in the Iraqi government during the 80s, and also he has a great collection about everyday life in the villages.
Mm.
So this part is completely neglected and very rarely showed, but not all this archive is now with my father
Mm.
because it's protected by some other parties and the third party, let's say. So, and some of them, which is, I put it in this context, less important because nothing's happened. And that's the reason that I made this film and about the silence
Silence
and
among the
grieving,
Reapers.
because will be happen at the end.
Mhm.
And that's make this footage less important than the other, which is there's a fighting, the people kill each other, because it's very funny. I asked my father, why this footage never screened anywhere? He said, I don't know. There is no fighting and nobody wished to see anything like this. But
Because
oh,
the
yeah,
film
because
is just, the fighters waiting to reach a battle that they're secretly waiting to begin, but the battle never actually
battle
happened.
didn't happen. Yeah,
And he
this is
ended up recording them singing a song, a Kurdish song.
yes,
And so your father, was he for whenever he was with or traveling with other fighters, he was always recording them. That was his job within the resistance, to record and photograph and film the movement.
yes. He was documenting everything, and a part of this archive sending to outside during the 80s because not everyone know about the Kurdish struggle.
Yeah.
So, and very less people know about what's happening there. That's why they are just sending everything outside in order to show some politician and some group or community in order how the Kurdish struggle going on now and what's the problem and how Saddam Hussein they attacked them. Just they show this kind of stuff.
And that makes sense now, that this was maybe some footage that he never sent out because nothing actually was ended up being no fighting scenes, nothing that potentially could be of interest to other, let's say, news outlets or parties, political parties.
So,
So, well, and how did he get the footage that you used in Paper Puppet Testimonies? Because that is that looks like it was some news footage.
yeah, a part of this footage that I used is coming from a TV channel, which is also established by my father and his friends in
Mhm.
1993, 92, I think it's 92, 91. And when after the revolution, and immediately they created this TV channel, which is the first the Kurdish channel that made at that time. So, and I use some of their footage as well. And also I think the different footage coming from the different agent, like an Italian agent TV came into the recording something. But anyway, I took this film from the TV channel and included with my father's archive. Because
Mm.
my father's archive, to be honest, I found it online instead of to have it from himself. Because it's everyone can see it online now. But what
And
really I
maybe
interest,
before just continuing to sort of give context to this work, which I was going to ask about afterwards, but now that we're discussing it, so this is a film that where you collect stories of Kurdish women, and it's about the notorious Red Prison in Sulaymaniyah. where Kurdish men and women were tortured, held, killed during Saddam's regime. And what what is shown throughout the film is that although now this prison is a museum and the histories are made public and the atrocities are made public, the experience of women in that history is completely ignored. And so yeah, and so the question being, what's the process of gathering this information? And you were about to say about how some of it, you piecemealed some of this archival information.
Yeah. And of course, when we are talking about the Kurdish revolution, and one of the most strong image came to our mind is about red prison, the red jail. So because this is a symbol of the most violent Iraqi headquarters at that time, and which is too many people being jailed, tortured, and raped and killed, and there's too many stuff happening in that during 80, I think it's 1981 till 1991. So
So
it's
this
about.
is the whole era of the Iran-Iraq War and even after the Iran-Iraq War.
Yes, and so, but after that, they decided the Kurdish government decided to turn the building into the museum, and now it's a museum for the Saddam Hussein's crime.
Mm.
But what I interested, I more like triggered by my father's archive, and when I saw it online, and I saw it in the several platform as well, so I couldn't see this particular image, this footage, because
Part that you
yes.
remember, right?
I was there and I saw this caravan when I was 10 years old, 12 years old, I think. I went with my father. So I saw this caravan and every known now until nowadays, everyone from that generation remember this caravan,
Mm.
but nobody talk about it.
And it's not in the online when you were seeing the footage. There was no the
No,
parts about the caravan and those scenes were cut out.
it's cut out. This is not part of
So where did you
the
find those scenes that are now in your own film?
hopefully, we have it at home. And
Oh,
after I revisited my
fully.
father's archive, I found it. And so the first I tried to interview some woman that actually was been in this prison before and been tortured or something like this. But I found some of them, to be honest, but no one willing to speak about what happened. So, and for me, it's quite fine because I just wanted to leave all the film at the end as a question why we are not talking about it.
Mhm.
And even still there is an image of it because I know this image, and even we still remember it. Let's talk about it. It's a kind of therapy, you know. So that's why I bring different people and from my family here and to talk about this event and as much as they remember. So most of them, they saw the caravana and they are coming from different generation. One of them is 10 years old, the other one is adult when they saw this kind of stuff. And I wanted to see different point of view from the different generation, how they perceive that event. And at the end, I am just leave it as a question. What
Yeah.
happened to this caravana and why they remove it as, because it's for me, there is another question, but still I am asking this film for myself. I was thinking about why the Ba'ath regime
Hmm.
made this caravana as a somewhere to torture or to rape women on tires.
Hmm.
Did really think about will be vanish after that. I think psychologically it's work because that's why they put it in some things movable instead of many other tortures is happening in the building, which is now it's just turned to what was that, what used to be.
Rooms, yeah, of the
Now
museum.
they bring back all of them, but only this one, which is dedicated for the woman interrogation, it was on tire. That means it could be moved, it could be destroyed, it could be vanished, and easily we can take it out. So for me,
As
it's a
as
kind
if
of discussion.
as if all the other sort of kind of tortures and atrocities are understandable or that like is expected, but this one is perhaps, subject to then be again covered up in a way.
This one side of the story. The other side, how quickly they are thought about these things and to go and remove it. Because after 4 to 5 days after the revolution, which is everything disorganized, and the city going through very bad situation at that time. So how they manage or thought about it to just
And
remove
who?
this, and who?
Yeah,
There is too many questions, to be honest.
yeah.
I know mostly it's about the honor, and which is a very sensitive subject to talk about in the Kurdish society, but still the victim is unknown.
I mean, it's also very interesting because some of the, you know, most some of the biggest feminist voices are also coming from Kurdish communities, Kurdish women that are at the forefront, as we know, of the women life freedom movement and so forth, coming out of also very traditional and, certain communities, as we know, that are very protective, and the idea of women's honor to regarding the family and regarding the males, let's say, in the family are all connected. So I mean, maybe it's not that surprising that also they're at the forefront of this movement to, for their own emancipation and liberation of women within Kurdish communities. And as well, the fact that Kurdish women also are fighters and also participate in the active arms struggle to maintain, on the continuing onslaught from different, governments that are, that put a lot of pressure on Kurdish communities, but and also in terms of the fight against ISIS, against, the Turkish government. I mean, there's so many examples of Kurdish women that have really been so seminal to this struggle. I mean, thinking about the images that your father created and the visuals, I think not only the visuals, but also the fact that the idea of collecting oral histories that, happened when he was, documenting what was going on in terms of the Kurdish fighters, but also there's such a overlay between your work. Of course, the footage, let's say, that you're using from that time, the historical footage, the context of that historical footage, and the new work that you yourself are filming, of course, the context of that work is different. The context of the images and the histories are different. But there's a really interesting overlay of imagery that is within your work, as well as the fact that you're both collecting oral histories. And I'm referring to your most recent film, Encounters on the Tigris, which is a three-part film in which you travel from the north of Iraq at Kurdistan along the Tigris River. And you go all the way from Kurdistan down through the country to the Persian Gulf, and you end there. And, you know, did you have in mind, did you know that before you started doing this, did you realize that there would be so much overlay between your work and your father's work?
Um, no, actually, the first I have been invited, so I was invited to do to make application for something that is related to climate change,
Mm.
and I never worked with the climate change before. So, but when I received this invitation, I was curious about it and what I can do, which is not directly addressing climate change, like for example, the water is gone. And the question in my mind, so what will be happen? Because I know that Iraq and with the Tigris and it's a long history, Mesopotamia and Gilgamesh. There is too many things is happening, and I heard a lot of story, like a mythical story, which is I was really fascinated to explore more about it. So I just have this question: what will be happen if this river dry out completely? So all the story is be vanish and nothing's happening. So I try
Because
to just
people might
yes.
move away because if the river no longer has water, then people can't live there because they depend on it for their livelihood. And so they would move away, and then you'd lose all of the traditions and the communities because, I mean, something that comes through from the films is the diversity of communities that are just along this river, from ethnic, linguistic, religious. There's so much diversity, and you really see, really it comes out. I mean, there's, throughout the tradition of film, there's so many filmmakers that have set out on similar kind of road trips where they go and talk and meet. So the work is, in that sense, your film and the three parts really have a place within, let's say, the larger canon of filmmaking and film history of these kinds of road trip films. But I mean, what a process it was. And can you talk a little bit about what the process was like? What were some difficulties that that you encountered? How did you choose for these edits? Because I don't know, how much did you film, in terms of the amount of footage you have, and how much made it within the three parts?
Yeah. And before I started to talking
Mhm.
about this, and because the project is commissioned by Ruya Foundation as a part of the
Mm,
World Weather Network, which is made and I think is hosted by Art Angel.
okay.
To this project, it's an international project. I think 25 organizations were part of this platform. So, and the first, when I started this project, I haven't had any plan to make a film, to be honest. I was just starting it as a research. So
Hmm.
I was filming as a research. And because the first I started, I was looking for a few questions, for example, and the mythical aspect of the river and the song. I was just looking for something. It's not directly tell me what's this river
Mm,
about, but in order to find too many directions. So I started from the top.
mm,
So in Fish Khabur, when the Tigris entering the Iraq land, so I recorded some song and some stories about, and but by time I came familiar with this river, because I didn't have this knowledge as well, and by myself, because I didn't know what's happening here. And time by time, I went back to the river and I found a different, interesting story about the mythical, about the uh, songs, and about how these people connected to the river, and also the way they are living, the way they are singing, the way they are talking, and they have a great impact of people around the river in the both side. So it was very interesting because I never been in the south of Iraq before.
mm.
So I found it as an opportunity, and at the same time as someone foreigner, not someone from the Iraq, because I found myself like someone going to somewhere I never tested, I never know what's going on. Even there is some like a scary story about it, that don't go there, it's dangerous, and too many things that people talk to me.
Oh,
And
really? People told you not to go certain
yeah,
places.
but it wasn't like this, to be honest, because the first time I went to Mosul, and my friend told me, don't do that because this is not safe. But when I went to Mosul, I found the beauty, and about food, about people, about the connection, about their relationship. And so it was so different. And after that, I went till I arrived in the south. So I collected this all material. I have a lot. It's a massive, to be honest. I collected a lot of song. I collected story and about different stuff. There was some difficulty. For example, I couldn't find the woman's voice in my archive, sorry,
Document.
my film. Yeah, this is one of the things that I was really wanted, because I wanted to interview a woman regarding too many subjects that related to them in relationship with the Tigris, but no one willing to speak to me at that time. And also, I tried to record some song, which is I heard the story in in Iraqi marshes, Jabaish, which is so interesting and talking about because they have this kind of they are scared of the sound in the past, and the sound they believed coming from the devil,
Mm.
which is this voice is a human voice. But
Oh.
the fact humans going to sing when they when it's dark and nobody can see, they are starting singing for themselves. So I wanted to discover a little bit more about this, explore more, but unfortunately I couldn't do anything with that.
Do
So
you
when I
think it's
yeah,
because you're a man
I
and
am a
they
man,
cannot
yeah,
speak to you?
I
Or
am a man, and also, to be honest, the Iraqi society going to be closed more than open because of the current situation,
mm,
current political situation, to be honest. And nobody trusts
anybody?
nobody. This is a problem.
Mm.
And so when I collected these all materials and I brought it back, and so I have been asked from my commissioner in order to make something to show it, what I have. So I created this line of film in order just to show how I followed. Because in the film you can see it's just a song and some story, but I am just trying to show you how I moved instead
Mhm.
to tell you what's exactly this material all about, or how deep is it. Because every story I recorded and I just showed a very small part of it
Mhm.
because there is too many things they are talking about. For example, the Mandaean
Mhm.
community, they talk about very different stuff, and also I there is a lot of religion story, Islamic story about how the Quran, like reading the Quran coming from the uh, different maqamat, Iraqi maqamat, which is coming from the river as well.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah, there is too many story in it, to be
I
honest.
mean, it was obvious from it, and I think that some of the, like what you mentioned about the Manichaeans, were very interesting as well in terms of also because they're such a secretive,
Yeah.
and have to protect themselves, and so they don't share. So, I mean, how did you even get access to that? I wonder because you're not, you're not from the community. So I wonder how were they so open, even, I mean, to you for that.
Yeah, actually, and Ruya Foundation was my guide, and they opened this door to go on because they have people that work with, and they help me to go this community and speak with them. They arranged everything, to be honest. So, and
Different all over or just for that community?
no, actually, to be honest, for all of them, and even from the north of Iraq, which is I'm coming from the north, and
Hmm.
they have a connection with the people, and they put me in contact with them. I use some of my contact as well, and but yeah, mostly they are helping me to
Well,
arrive.
I wonder because you're saying as well that I mean, you're from the north, you're from Kurdistan. So I don't know how much you had spent time in the south along, even in the marshes and on the side. I don't, how familiar were you with those parts of Iraq before this project?
No, actually, before this project, I never been in the south of Iraq, especially in Iraqi marshes
Mhm.
or Basra. I used to be in Baghdad before, but I never been in the other part.
Mhm.
But they are helping me, and I was lucky that I visited
Oh,
twice, and so the first time I recorded some stuff, and I went back. So think about it and come back again, and yeah, I have this opportunity to go twice, and I I found some interesting stuff, but
I'm
still there is too many,
I'm
and
sure, I'm sure you have
never.
material for years actually to work with because, and this is what and this is what something of what I sort of mentioned earlier in the sense that now you are, it seems, following in the footsteps of your father in some ways, where you are also then collecting, of current day, let's say, and preserving in a sense, because this is an act of preservation. If you have an opportunity to have access, let's say, to a community that you wouldn't, that would normally not speak to you, then, this is a really special, way of preserving and recording in the moment, sort of the traditions, the dances, the music, how is living, because sometimes they use, we use the term folklore However, in this case, I don't know if I would say that it's folklore because people are actually living, that they're practicing this in their reality. It's not something from the past that we're thinking about. It's actually being lived and practiced today. So it's really interesting to be able to see some of that. It's fascinating. And it's really important work. So I wonder if at some point later on in 20, 30 years that hopefully people will have access to some of your archives to be able to see them. Because
Yeah,
it's
hope so. Let's see what will be happen. Yeah, I made this line and this sequence of the film, and yeah, let's see what will be happen in the future.
yeah,
So I hope I have some. There is a platform which is I can upload all this
yeah,
material because I am really. I'd be very happy to use the other people used it for the different purpose for the different film, for example.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And even
that's it.
for research from an academic perspective, I think this is so
Oh,
valuable.
okay.
And, I mean, you acknowledge and it makes sense that there is something missing within this documentation, which is the perspective and the experiences of women, which is, let's say, half of the, half of the work is not there, half of the information is not there. But, you know, there are limitations to you as your person, who you are and what you have access to, and that's okay. That's a reality of you as the artist and you as the filmmaker. And there is hopefully, I really, what we can hope is that there will be others who can be able to fill in those gaps in different ways throughout their work. Hopefully, other women filmmakers who will have the opportunity to travel and to at least fill in some of these things that are missing. Yeah, and I think that what were some of the things I wonder that you walked away with in terms of the ecological concerns? And then we'll move on to some of your other films, but this is such an important and the newest work that you did, so I wanted to focus on this a little bit. But you wanted to focus on the environment. What are some things that you walked away with that were new to you or that you didn't know about?
Yeah, to be honest, working with the climate is my first time, and I had no idea and how I start with this. That's why I just choose something that is not quite relevant.
But it
And
is.
it's
It's very
relevant, of
relevant.
course, it's
Yeah.
about song. And so I said song the first time, and I told myself, okay, where are you going with this? But after that, I found out about song. Yeah, of course, this has a strong relationship with the water and what's happening there now. So it was very interesting because I just put this reality in front of myself that this river going to be end because of the political
Mhm.
situation in Iraq and Turkey and Iran, and this river is
It's gonna
dying.
go dry. When is the year, or when do they think, when is the idea that it will no longer?
I don't know, but probably in 2050,
Mhm.
that's a day, and that's what I heard
Yeah,
from people. Well,
that's
and
fantastic.
because I asked this question during my interview at every interview I made, and at the end I asked this question: what will be happen if this river is vanish or disappear completely? And every community has its plan for after that, because I was interested to make the last part, which is I couldn't make it because of the financial problem. I wanted to create this kind of imaginative future, how we can imagine future, because the Mandayan community told me that because we need a river, and that means we need somewhere the water come and go,
Yeah,
not
flowing
water,
water. It can't be
foreign
stationary.
water.
Yeah.
So I asked this question: what will be happen to the Mandayan community if the Tigris is completely dry? And one of them said, we have a plan and we already think about it. We are making a big pool. That's the water. We are bringing a tank. We put water into the pool, and also we make it go away as well. That's suitable for Mandayan to do their practice.
Wow. So they wouldn't leave. They would stay and find
Yes,
a solution to the,
yeah.
yeah,
This is very
the
nice.
technical problem that they're
The
solving.
technical, yeah. But still, we have to think about it, how we eat, how we find the job and money, and there is too many stuff complicated, but they are thought about something. They have a plan to do something. The plan is not practical, but for me, it's very interesting, this as a material of film, you know? That's why when I follow after that, when I follow my way to the south of Iraq, and in Kut, another city in Iraq, and there was a historian called Muhammad. He had a very big knowledge about what happened in Iraq in the past. And he was talking about the difference time of river, which is changed its direction, and what happened to the people, and how people is go away, and many people is go to the another city, and many of them just move with the river.
Mhm.
So it was a massive story, you know. There is too many story about the river, and everyone, when you're just asking a simple question, and they have something to say about it.
Of course,
Yeah,
always. Well, that's part of the beauty of the film in general, and just again to see that those diversity of voices, although lacking the women's voices, but just in general to know and see all these different communities that live along the river and that depend on the river. So I'm excited for, for it to show, and hopefully that you'll get to make part four very soon to and
I'm happy.
yes, I hope so too. I mean, maybe this is also a good moment to talk about music in general because you, music is a thread throughout so many of your works, so many of your videos, and I wonder how do you see it relative to your creative process as a whole?
Yeah, yeah. Although I am a filmmaker. I make film as an artist, so that means I am showing a footage
Hmm.
and more relying on the image, or image in general. But I think I'm glad you said that, because I want to just mm, audience see this part of my film. The song has really very central uh, position in my film, because in somehow I believe a story, or I don't know, a theory, whatever uh, call it, we are lost trust to image,
Mm-hmm.
because the image is used as a weapon against us as people from the
Viewers.
third country, Middle East, whatever we call it, this area. And also, I had this kind of theory about, it's not a theory, actually, that's happened when during the Iraq invasion in 2003. And when they bombed Iraq, and there was a concept that's coming from Pentagon. They call it shock and awe,
Yeah.
which is they send their photograph, their journalists, in order when the first bomb is dropping down, and they make an image of it and send it to the media directly.
Yeah.
In For the reason that what the excuse for these things that the Pentagon has is to let the Iraqi soldier just surrender, not go
Exactly.
into
For them
what.
to see as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. And
Let many Don't let many people kill during this war. But in fact, and we killed by this it itself, the image. And the image kill us because we can't express with the image nowadays. And we also has this problem, and we can't make any strong image as the media make about us, you know. It's kind of, we are just lost control. That's why I believe in sound more. Sound is something like, for me, is kind of a mystery now, need to be decoded,
mm,
never speak directly, and you have to understand it, you have to go on with it. And also they have a lot of uh, cultural content, you know. And
and
as a,
historical,
yeah.
as
And
a way
also,
that it's in a way, not a document, but it's a oral tradition that is often, I mean, if we're talking about, let's say, old songs that are passed on uh, orally,
yeah,
it's a historical document. It's a primary source.
Yes, and also we are as a people from the South Asia and the Middle East, we are more reliant on song and music rather than image. The
Mhm.
image is not coming from us.
And poetry, which
Oh,
is part of the song, with lyrics often of the song, which are poetry, which, yes, as we are people, like poetry for our people is the highest form of art. And it's beautiful to think that because it's all about words and the way that the interplay of words, whereas imagery is a much more recent, especially moving image, which is very modern. But
yeah, that's why I think music, our sound in general is important for us to express ourselves because it's the only media that we can trust at the moment. Even I am working with the moving image, but I have something to say through music
mhm,
and not musician. I am not talking about musician. I am talking about the sound, the complexity of sound, and the sound as a museum, as a something, as a box that contain too many stuff.
mhm.
I still need to open it and find out what's this. And yeah,
Do you mean at that point sort of the melodies? Do you mean sort of the where the sounds come from? Are we talking about the instruments? Are we talking about also, let's say, the lyrics? What when you say the music, is it all these things? Is it?
absolutely. Everything starts coming from the culture,
Mhm.
because that's why I bring them too close together, song and conflict.
Okay.
Song, I always showing together. I never separated. I never focused on song to show only song.
Yeah.
Also, there's a crisis coming with it. So that's why I want to just understand it in comparison, compare it together.
I mean, I think it's a wonderful sort of segue to one of the films that we've talked about together before, the music of the Bush era, which looks at, it's about propaganda, right? And it's a very subtle sort of revelation of how the Bush administration used certain tools, in this case music, for its own propaganda machine. And so what the film is about is a big concert that was organized in Washington that included the Iraqi National Orchestra, which your sister was part of at the time. And so and the footage, a lot of her footage is part of this, which again goes back into your use of family footage, and others people's footage that you use within your work. And so the orchestra played alongside sort of Yo-Yo Ma and other very well-known figures, and it was ultimately a spectacle, and it was a show of how the U.S. was supposedly, right, helping the orchestra, but in the end, it was just a signal for the world because it was, recorded, and the president was there, Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell, all these major figures of the U.S. administration at the time were at the concert, and it was more to show, kind of like, oh, look what a great work we're doing. We're helping the National Orchestra of Iraq, and we're bringing culture back to Iraq. But so yeah, like, can you talk a little bit about that film, why you made it, why was it important to actually show that, like, perspective?
Yes, and well, the event happening in 2003, and so what I'm interested about this film, to make this film, is about this all archive that exists online, and also my sister's archive, which is another part, which they are just recording some their daily life during preparation or rehearsal for this
And
concert.
they had 1 month, right, to prepare for this
Only
concert.
1 month, yes, of course, and they brought this symphony all together very fast, Just they have 1 month to prepare something and go and present it there. So this is so far fine for me, and they are going to show this film at this concert in US, and in order to show that Iraq can uh, become subtle and now going well, and they have a good connection between community, and there is no problem. So I don't have any problem with that. And what I'm interested about to make a film is coming from um, the concept or the things that Zizek talk about it, Slavoj Žižek, about Beethoven. And Beethoven during the history and misunderstood and always used by the powerful, the people in power for the authority. They find it as something ideological. But Zizek just stated that the Beethoven always was a critic about the authority, about the ideology. So I just wanted to bring back everything in the same way, although they have been exploited and used for propaganda. But when you bring it back, you can see what kind of critic they have. And now we can see and what's this event about and what's the message now we can receive from this event itself. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm interested about to make a film. I didn't want to make like solving a problem or bring back something very complex and not understanding, just bring it back. That's my point. And by bring it back and we can understand this is something critic instead, a critic, not something that's uh, serving
Mhm.
the propaganda.
Mhm. And this film is still in progress, correct? That there are other elements of the film in addition to just the scenes from the actual performance and your sister's archive, right?
Actually, because I made this work as an installation, as a
Okay.
two-channel
The two
video.
versions. So yes. So there's one version that's an installation with two channels.
So I showed this before, and also I thought because I haven't done with this work, I don't know why. So that's why I decided to remake it, but this time as a film and to tell you exactly what's happened and also bring some other story, which is quite happening in the same time and also in somehow interconnected together.
Related, yes, of course. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
So I brought some material from the YouTube, which is about the first beginning about the protest in London. So I think somehow I'm living in London and also London protest against this invention was the biggest protest in the history. And also I interested about this protest because one things which is very highlighted, we elected this politician, why nobody listened to us? So, and this is one thing, and this also affected to like a Dixie Chicks band, which at that time they are in London and they have a concert and they made this statement, we are ashamed President Bush is from Texas and there's a backlash against them.
Mhm.
And which
In
is
the US.
in the US, yeah, of course. And they banned it from many radio and TV stations and the people saying about, even they are threatened to be
Yeah.
killed.
And they
Honest, yeah.
boycotted them and they're, yeah.
Yeah, and so for me, it's kind of even they are using the music for propaganda, but still they are standing against anyone that's not legitimate this war. You
Yeah.
know, they
Yeah.
have to accept it as something we wanted, but we are not. So the voice exploited it in music, and also there's a voice that critiquing the this action. So I just wanted to brought everything together in order to make one test. It's like a making cooking, you know,
Yeah.
bring something which is against this, is sweet and sour, bring it together. Sometimes it's make something like strong and yeah, give me some answer to what's happened and why we forget about this all. Nowadays we are in London again. What happened now against Palestinian people, you know? People coming to the street, but still everyone has this question in mind. What will be happen? Because this is we witnessing this before
Yeah.
and nothing's happened. And we are hoping to do something. We are not giving up, I know, and we want to continue, but still I have these things, you know. It's happened, but it hasn't had any effect, and nobody listened to it.
It's the maintained power of those that are in control and the people that make money and profit off of war, that truly pull the strings of all these Western administrations. So yes, it's a continued pressure. And it's important to watch the kind of work that you're making, think about the kind of work, because especially for younger generations that are maybe not as familiar with the imagery, with the just the day-to-day discourses that were happening about the Iraq War because they were not alive. Because I even remember when I was a teenager and the Iraq War was happening, I remember hearing these things. I remember, but and so yes, we can probably see some of those repeated cyclical sort of cycles that are repeating now, be it in, obviously in Palestine, but even let's say in, from before Iraq, even in Afghanistan, and then Iraq, and then, in Syria, and then the fight against ISIS. I mean, we see so much that it's important to pause and even take one, as an example, one event, one way that the government has used something, a spectacle for propaganda, and see how it happens again and again so that people can be aware of it. And they know that this is not coming out of nowhere. There's a history, and and all people in power use all these different tools from the time of when Beethoven, after Beethoven, even though he was against those in power, they completely took and changed the meaning of his work, of his music to today. So yeah, I mean, and talking about propaganda, and I know we have two more films to talk about, and I know we're sort of coming towards the our time, but I mean, I want to talk about also The Tank of My Sketchbook, which is also about propaganda. This time, it's looking at the way that Saddam's government and regime used propaganda for children on television and schools regarding the Iran-Iraq War. So now we're going back in time again to the 80s. So the Iran-Iraq War, which took place from 1980 to 88, and was the longest war in the 21st,
Century.
20th century, excuse me, 20th century, in the 20th century, which is, crazy to think about as well. And the toll of human loss was, in the millions. And these are unofficial numbers because the official numbers are not necessarily accurate. But anyway, tell us a little bit about this work and why it was important for you to sort of make this piece.
Yeah, first of all, because I was a child during the Iran-Iraq War, and so to be honest, I was really affected by this war mentally, and I never solved this problem till now. When I'm talking about the any war, my biggest reference is the Iraq-Iran war.
Mm.
So when I try to research about this project, so I saw this and I knew it, but when I saw it as kind of reminder, this is the biggest war in the 20th century. I asked myself, in somehow it's the longest, but it's not the biggest as well. So that's why when the Iraq-Iran war is finished, and immediately we went to another war, which is the bigger,
Yeah,
and the Gulf War.
yeah,
This is they didn't give us a chance to just treat our wound, to recover, to talk about it, to capture it, to bring it out. So that's why we are just confused with this war. And I think the Gulf War is quite clear for us. And after that, and 2003, everything is clear. But Iran-Iraq War is not clear because we forget about it. It's the fragment, and which is really we wounded by this war. And I thought we are only people, Iraqi and Irani people, to talk about this war nowadays,
yeah,
today,
yeah,
because I saw this film, Aroa,
Aurora sunrise.
Aroa. Oh my God, this I really touched by this film, especially when the end she's speaking about how we just prevent genocide happening, because we have to bring what's happened in the past to the trial and never what happened to Jew and has occurred, you know. It's we
Armenian.
completely stop the
Yeah.
tech.
Yeah. So you're referring at the end, she says a quote that if people had known about the genocide that happened against the Armenians, then what happened towards the Jews in Germany would not have happened. That's what she said. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I mean. We didn't have a chance to talk about this war at all. And that's why, and after that, we are just going confusion, you know. We are not quite, to be honest, we are not quite certain what's happening now. And because we are not studying what happened in our past.
Yeah.
So I thought the film and or the art and artist is the right people and the right work to go and discover this part. Now we can bring it back and we can just put it in the table and look at it in the different way. That's a reason to make a film. The film is about it's about my childhood. Tell you my story,
In it.
but what's I am trying to show you and also the archive that we saw it as a child. At the same time, for me, it's very important sometimes not to use I don't want to say that I'm exploiting the way of child or woman, but I think they have a very strong context when you are bringing some subject into it. So that's why sometimes I'm talking about the woman, but in general, I'm talking about history, about the problem with the history and a problem with our past and the information that we miss now. It's not included to the story. That's why sometimes I use children as the same things, because the voice of children hardly heard about the conflict, which is very important, and to know what's happened. And that's why I use a lot of archival material from cartoon, which is that made by Iraqi government for propaganda, and also songs, films that we saw during the Iran-Iraq war. We are only saw they the conflict film, and
Yeah.
also from the Hollywood, they only bring the film that has some connection with the war and conflict and something like this. So that's why, and we are really affected by this kind of image and songs, and also and then another side, the war itself. And after all, we have been told that Iraq won at
Of
the
course.
at the end, but because we are Kurd, we have a family in Iran as well,
Yeah.
and we are familiar with these things. And the court from Iran also told us that Iran won.
Oh, yeah. In Iran, they
Most
said that
of the
they would.
sides,
Exactly.
we are exactly know that there is no winner in this war, you know.
Yeah.
It's just destroying
And
each
there
other.
was no even official winner, that officially everyone now knows that there was no winner. It was a
Just
stalemate.
give
It was as if both sides just couldn't fight any longer. It was just so destructive to all the societies, to everything. It was a truly horrific, horrendous experience for all sides. And yeah, I mean, it's still, I think, the difference, at least think in Iran, is that they haven't had a war on the soil of Iran since the Iran-Iraq war, so it's still sort of all the images of the martyrs and so forth are still everywhere. Whereas in Iraq, like you say, there's been no chance to even process anything because it's been back to back from the invasion of Kuwait, the Gulf War, to then the American invasion, then with ISIS, then I mean like it's been nonstop, and it's truly something that decimates culture. It decimates society. And like you say, it makes people not trust one another and become fearful. So this is really something that's happening across the region. And it's heartbreaking because this is how civilizations sort of really become ashes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's really upsetting. And so hopefully, countered by some of the work that you're doing, right? Where you're collecting histories, collecting oral tradition or visual traditions, oral histories, all sorts of documentation so that, hopefully there is a memory of communities for future generations, despite whatever happens. And then for your last film to sort of tie into that, which is called Cineholic.
Yeah.
And it's, at first when I saw it, I felt like it was a little bit of an outlier. It's different from your work. It's not really about the land. It's not, but what it is that you're recording and you're interviewing different Kurdish people who were obsessed with cinema and who were part of the analog film sort of scene, that, either worked at, had their own cinemas at the time that were all independent, and sort of engaging with them, thinking about, talking about their history. And so, that is such a really, beautiful work of also documenting something a little more modern, in terms of cinema and like the technology of cinema. But what was it that actually, because it's a little different than your other works, but how did you come across that, the characters or the people that you interviewed, and why did you make the film?
Yeah, actually, I was invited to create
Ah,
a film with my co-director, Shivan
yes.
Fatih. He's an artist from Kirkuk and the city that we made this film. So when he invited me, I was interested in the story of this group of men. So because I am interested in the home video,
Mm-hmm.
and because of the political complex in Iraq, and also home video is implicated with the politics.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to find this kind of line, how this home video will go through the problem because of the politics.
Yeah.
And I found it with this group of men, and we created about the film. And why I like it to make this film, because I found it very interesting that people defined uh, what belonged them. Like a cinema is belong to people, and that's why they define to keep it by watching film.
Mm.
Was very interesting for me, because when I talk to them, because they turn their some of them turn their house into the
Cinema.
small cinema
Yeah.
hall, and to invite their friends to come. I interested this part because they are defining the collective things. For example, how to see or to watch film collectively, because at that time this city, Kirkuk, it was going through too many terrorist activity, and they make a lot of problem. And Kirkuk is one of the city, is the oil city.
Yeah.
It is one
People
of,
wanted control over it
yes.
because
Still,
it's
still they
rich.
have a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and they all in power. They make a problem in that city in order to do whatever they want to steal this oil. So that's why I was very interested about this film at that time, how to, because only them, they can bring the society as it is. This society of Kirkuk, or the community of Kirkuk, and they coming from the diverse communities.
Mhm.
For example, the Turkmen, the Arab, the Kurd, and there's too many
There's many different,
living together.
yeah,
Yes,
groups.
and they have a long history in the past, and although they have some conflict, of course, but at the same time, and they are sharing too many stuff together, and they are friends now. So it's a kind of bringing peace in the different way
Mm.
to the city. And that's the reason I created this film. And what's linking to the link of this film with the other work is about the archive again, because these people make something for themselves and nobody talk about it. And
Yes, it's interesting that they mention in the film how what connects them, is the love for film, and that they could be from all different parts of the world, all different parts of the country, but they really all share this common language and common love for film. So it makes sense that now you mentioned that they're all, the different people that you're interviewing are from different backgrounds and different, ethnic backgrounds. And that, yes, and when you in the film there is a historical sort of aspect where they revive certain archival home videos that they did, and that another part of it, one of the videos, there's a story in which, yes, he sends it out and it gets destroyed, it gets sent back, and it gets confiscated
Yeah.
because the government, it's during the Iran-Iraq war, and they're not allowed to send any type of footage outside that could, you know, be in conflict with sort of the official Iraqi narrative and the images that are coming out from the government officially. So yes, there is always, especially back then when there was so much more control of images because it was all analog. Now, of course, with digital sort of documentation, there's a little bit of a, you know, it's a very different world than it was back then, where governments can't really control the way that they once could, the story that's coming
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So it is a really interesting moment in history that you are able to bring to life and remind your viewers of through some of these stories, these anecdotes that the that those who you interviewed are sharing. But are there any last words which you would like to share about your work, share about, different specific films, or anything that we didn't touch upon that you want to mention?
Uh, I think we talk about many things today.
Yes.
Probably the last things that I would like to talk about is about my last film, which is I'm recently engaging with some other material from my father's archive, and I want to create a film about Kurdish struggle from the children's point of view, and from the children's struggle, and more accurately to say, and during the 80th. But my film is kind of experimental, and I try to bring the sense, the understanding of our past as something that we are somehow going opposite side. And so all this important stuff that we believe as a Kurdish that now turn to be something like used for different purpose, and which is in somehow too many victims that nobody knows about them, and because of they glorifying just a part of what happened in the past. So I try to bring this all together, and at the same time show how and what we are, what we went through during that time. And yeah, it's a kind of experimental film. I'm just playing with some archival material in order to find one screen still. I During the film, I'm telling about the story of the boy that injured, and also the girl was died. But at the same time, I try to show the culture, and the culture about the Kurdish culture in mountain, and this relationship to the mountain, and this relationship to sun. And yeah, I think this is the last things. I'm not sure if this is makes sense or not, but
No, I
I
mean, it's something
understand by
for us
myself.
to look forward to because this is not part of what we're sharing in our program, but it's something for anyone watching to also, keep an eye out for among your new work that's coming out. I think that sounds really lovely. And also, I love, I also have a personal interest in perspectives from of children and, children's experiences that are reflected in, moving image, be it through documentary or through, more narrative films. So I'm personally very excited and curious to see the work once it's complete. And yeah, I really thank you for all the time that you spent today speaking about your work. And I'm so grateful for your generosity and sharing your videos with our community, and with everyone around the world, just to see and hopefully learn from your work and get to know and have a deeper understanding of the history of Iraq and Kurdistan, and an understanding of the communities and the culture there. So
No, thank you very much. To be honest, this is a great opportunity, and that I can show my film to the audience from this beautiful platform. And no, I'm very grateful for that, to be honest, and for your time and your effort with my film and also with my interview. And this is not my first time I am just appearing here, and which is always is my favorite platform to speak to. And yeah, thank you very much for everything, Lila. And
thank you,
that's
Sharko.
all.
Again, thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you,
You
everybody, for watching.
take care. Bye bye.